Fender Ultra Luxe Vintage Strat. American Ultra Luxe Vintage Strat. This thing is a great guitar. I bought it. I was practically a first day buyer. Did some trade-ins. But I hope you'll consider watching this review of this excellent guitar. Yeah, this is a super good guitar. I sort of can't, that's the humbucker. Neck. 2. Definitely have 5 distinct settings on those pickups, but you know, I had that white Ultra, and that's what changed my. I always looked at those Ultras and I thought, you know, the neck comp, you know, 10-inch radius down here. I don't know. I love those 7.25 radiuses. Plus, you know, they had a polyurethane finish, so I always kind of wrote them off. But then I I read enough about them online, and so I bought the cheapest one Guitar Center had, that white one you see. And as soon as I got it, man, it was just like a dream to play it. And you know what I noticed is a lot of that kind of electric guitar playing. You know, I wouldn't say it was better for necessarily, because I think one interesting thing about these modern guitars, if you think about a 7.25 neck radius, it's got that little hill in it. So on the edges, you've got, there's a little more distance between the strings and the neck than in the middle. So, but on a flatter radius, so especially on those bass strings, you don't get quite as much pop out of the bass strings, I don't think, but it's not really, I noticed that on that PRS acoustic I had, and it's not a criticism. But boy, you get just a nice, that's the neck again. But I played that white Ultra, and after I played it a while, I said, I wouldn't say it's the guitar. I mean, like if my house was on fire, this wouldn't be the guitar I grabbed. It might even be the one I let burn. But you know what? In a way, it was the guitar I couldn't put down the most. I would start playing it, especially all this kind of stuff on especially all this like, you know, that's I started playing and dropped what I was going to say. But it's just such a nice guitar. One thing I was going to say is, I know when I got this one, and so when this came out, when this Ultra Luxe vintage came out, I said, you know, I hate to be a sucker, but I might be a first day purchaser. I think I got this like on the third day, and I was hoping it wouldn't sell out. There was only one in Atlanta. There was a Telecaster in Atlanta, and this in Atlanta, and it's seafoam green. They didn't have the Fiesta red one. I might have picked, but I've always wanted a seafoam green, and I said, you know what? If it's anything like that white Ultra I had that I bought for like barely over $1,000, I'm getting it, because it just had a couple extra. It's got a classic color, seafoam green, 60s. This is the 60s. They've got a 50s and a 60s, and I said, if it's anything like that white one in terms of playability, where you just you get it all in tune and everything, and you just start playing and go, and you just, you know, you're done. You don't. It's like you're one with the guitar. You don't have to keep fussing with it all night. I said, man, I'm gonna get that. I said, I'm gonna and I'm not really looking for a new guitar, so I did a couple trade-ins, scraped up some money, and I bought this. I bought the one they had in Atlanta that I saw, because I did store locator, and this was the only one. And the guy said they were hoping to sell it right away, and so maybe they'll get some more. I was thinking maybe it sounded like it was kind of a trial run. You know, Fender might not run this that long, and maybe it would be kind of like a let's launch this sucker and see if she floats. But you get the vintage elements, I guess, are that you know, you get a custom color. It's nitrocellulose. It's called an Heirloom nitrocellulose, and it's just got a little bit of crackle on it, like checking, but I wouldn't have really. And you know what? If this were relic in any kind of way, it would have been you know, something that I personally wouldn't have been that interested in. But it's just kind of a nice finish, but it's a lacquer finish and it's aged a little bit. And what Fender says is that it's going to age with your playing, so you know, like where your arm goes and everything like that. But I said I'm going to go buy it, so I just went up to Guitar Center, did a couple trade-ins. You know, I don't know, people that criticize Guitar Center, but I did those trade-ins. I lost some money, but I did a lot better than, you know, I can't imagine trying to sell all that on Reverb. They gave me a pretty good value on a couple trade-ins, and you know, I made the difference up and everything. But I took it home. Now, one thing I noticed that was a little different from that white Ultra was like there's a little bit of a thuddy quality. Hear that G? It doesn't quite ring out. And I thought, is that the action too low? See that? It doesn't quite ring out. And so I took it up to Music and Arts, and there's a kid up there. I like him. You know, he doesn't have a lot of experience, but I think he's got a good future ahead in guitar, and he knows quite a bit about it. He said it's something about this finish. I just have to keep playing it because it's not like a maple neck. It's not a real snappy neck. And so I was playing it last night and just like really playing it, like do some of those bends down there. But sure enough, it started getting better, and then so I'm pretty sure that's one of those things where it was kind of like you know, when you get sometimes if you get a nice new Martin, you got to play it a while till it's kind of sleepy into the case. You got to kind of wake it up a little bit, because this thing was new. I mean, this wasn't new like it was, you know, no one had bought it. It was in the warehouse. I mean, I think this was in the Fender factory last week at this time, I'm pretty sure, because it went into Guitar Center, and I bought it like the third day it was there, and I was going to buy it the first day. But yeah, you want the nitro smell and all that, you get it on this thing. I'm always inclined to play some of that really nice. It's electric guitar. It's Stratty, but it's kind of popular music Stratocaster. Some other things I will say about it: that quarter sawn neck. So I had the Ultra 1, and that was, I mean, like I said, that was probably the. If like the house were on fire and I was pulling my guitars out and after I got my beautiful wife out, of course, the number one priority by a million miles, but if I still was able to get in the house and start grabbing some guitars, that, you know, my Martin would be my first grab, I think, you know, and maybe cut like that Fender 70th anniversary Esquire. And that white one I had would have been way down the list, but you know, to pick up and play, at the end of the day, it would have been my number one guitar. Funny how that works, isn't it? I mean, that white one, which was just kind of, I didn't really think that much of buying it. I paid money for it, but I mean, it wasn't like a big deal to me, other than the money. And right away, it became one of my favorite guitars to play. This one. Wake it up a little bit. this is an Ultra Luxe, but it's vintage. So I think the vintage aspects of it are sort of limited to the fact that it's got the Heirloom Nitro Lacquer finish, and I think the cuts on it are a little less dramatic. I think it's got a little more of a traditional Strat cut. But other than that, I would say it's it's still kind of that Ultra. If you like that Ultra, and like I said, that Ultra was not a guitar I had never really considered myself that. It seemed kind of like a PRS to me, or a, or one of these kind of metal guitars. And maybe it is. Maybe that Fender's trying to appeal to that market more than they have in recent years. But this thing is such a great guitar, and it's got locking tuners on it. It's got a neck. That neck is called quarter sawn. It's a certain kind of saw cut that they do, quarter saw. And everybody says it's just a really solid wood. And I think it's the kind of thing I would have never noticed in a million years, quarter sawn neck. But once someone mentions it to you and how much more solid and sturdy the neck is and stable, whatever that means, but the neck is really sort of stable and strong. That once someone tells you that, you kind of go, yeah, I think maybe I do notice that. You're never quite sure if it's you're responding to the power of suggestion or whatever, but you kind of go, yeah, you know what? I think maybe you're right. But everybody seems to think that's a good thing to have the quarter sawn. But it's a super nice guitar. Yeah, I think this is. I mean, it's a true new guitar. I don't think my hands were the first ones that ever touched it, and I need to break it in a little bit more. But I have been. And it's one of those guitars where you sit and play it for an hour, and it starts to kick in. I don't know if that makes any sense, but to me that does. Because sometimes I think we live in a kind of digital age, short attention span age. It's not like 1970. I remember where people would sit and play the guitar for 2 hours, just kind of lose yourself in it. That was beanbag chair and a lava lamp always helped that a little bit, but you really played and you kind of explore the guitar. I think now we're kind of like click, play, and this is one where, play it for an hour, you really start to, it starts to wake the guitar up and maybe wake you up to what a nice instrument it really is. I think the price is, it's not cheap. I've always, that Jimmy Page Fender Telecaster, mirror Telecaster was one of the more expensive ones. And at one time, I think that was described as the most expensive production guitar Fender made, the Jimmy Page mirror Telecaster. This might be running, that you might be giving the Jimmy Page mirror Telecaster a run for its money. There might be a couple others now. But boy, oh boy, you're getting a nice guitar. You could say the price is high or whatever, but sometimes in life you get what you pay for. It's kind of like, do you want? And if it doesn't matter to you that much, then you can get, I'm sure, really good guitars for less than half the price. But if you want that little bit of extra, you got to pay for it. Somebody told me that about wine one time, and I've always remembered it. Most people, $50 bottle of wine is pretty good. You just, you drink that, and that's as far as I'm concerned, extravagant. And I'm not I don't drink wine, but that $50 for a bottle of wine, that's pretty extravagant compared to Country Quencher and Annie Greensprings and Boone's Farm. you know, $5 a bottle behind the football field with your friends. That was a little more affordable back then. But so $50 for a bottle of wine, that seems kind of expensive. But then you get into like a $1,000 or $2,000 bottle of wine. Most people can't tell the difference. If you just put it, in front of their dinner with spaghetti or something, they just drink it. But the people that can tell the difference, there's a subtlety in those really expensive wines, and there's the only way you're going to get it is to pay for it. That's what someone told me once. I think watches are kind of like that too, if you care about it. But this thing is better. See, that to me is, that is in metal music. You have a lot of like E minor chords and kind of, for however disparaging the term is, cowboy chords. I do think there are a lot of cowboy chords in metal, like E minors, C's, D's, G's, F's, and you need a nice guitar that can play all that. Turn down the tone. The compound radius neck. Now I can do that on a 7.25 neck radius, but it definitely is easier on this thing. You feel more at home up on the upper neck. You don't have to develop a whole new technique and kind of fight with the instrument to play above the 10th or 11th fret. See, there's where I think the string might be a little bit, I might need a setup. See that? Yeah, I mean, it's a great guitar. And I think, like I said, I'm breaking it in, but because it's new. I mean, this is new, hot off the press, new. It's not like new. It's been in the case for a month in a warehouse. And I mean, it's just an excellent guitar. So I paid good money for this guitar. It's expensive. I'm just saying this. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, by the way. But I'm just saying this as a consumer and a musician. This is a great Strat. Like if I had one Strat and I wanted to play it in serious, kinds of situations, this would be the one I would grab. One of these days, I'm going to buy that Ultra Luxe Telly, because I'm pretty sure that's a sweet Telly too. But can't recommend it enough. Thanks. God bless.